if I had to gather a 30,000 foot view of the situation, I would say that he's probably done enough to earn another provisional season, if you will. And I think Washington right now has the edge, if I'm not mistaken. But there are four other 6 and 7 teams. So
we are Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. I hope you're hearing me strong and solid. I kind of goofed up the mic there. I had a cough last night. I forgot to turn it back on. That's on me. That's my problem. That's my issue. But we got it worked out, so I'm glad to be able to put my microphone back on key for it. Our next guest would never do something as stupid as I just did, muting myself for the show. He does a great job, very unmuted for yahoosports.com. Eric Edholm, good enough to hop on board with us for a couple minutes here on Birds 365. How you been, Eric?
Really what you're trying to say is I'm very loud. I'm a very stentorian man. That's really what it comes down to. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a nice warm morning here in Chicago, unexpectedly warm. So I'm enjoying it with the short sleeves here today.
I was going to say, it's warm. What is it, like 28?
No, like 54 or something crazy like that. So I don't know if this is not football weather, apparently. I don't know.
Damn, that is warm in Chicago for this time of year. All right, I wanted to ask you the question that I just ended up asking Jeff. This offseason, knowing full well that the last month of the season could change this drastically, depending on the results. But as we sit here with 4 games left to go for every team in the NFL, how many head coaching openings do you think they're going to be in the NFL this offseason?
Yeah, I heard you guys discussing it. I thought Jeff did a good job of breaking down the possibilities. And you know, I mean, sometimes there's a coach of a team in contention, too, that might be fired. I'm kind of looking down the list. No real obvious candidates. I mean, unless, let's say, you know, the Cowboys absolutely flop down the stretch and you know, Jerry melts down and says, all right, Mike McCarthy, you're gone. I don't really see that happening, but you never know. I mean, you know, obviously we've seen strange things happen. You know, I think Kyle Shanahan's probably safe in San Francisco, even if they have a flop or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it really could come down to, you know, Jacksonville, Houston could be a spot, one and done for David Culley. You know, I think the way that Brian Flores has kind of rebounded with this team, it would be hard to say that his job is in jeopardy, even with the terrible start they got off to. Denver, I still feel like Vic may have another year. I know that other people are reporting differently, or that if they don't win, get into the postseason, it's not going to happen. But that's one to keep an eye on. I think Vic is brought out some good football in this team, even without the quarterback. And you're right, Jeff. I think this is probably the most attractive situation. So if Denver feels like they can get a clear upgrade, if there's a candidate that they absolutely love, somebody who they believe can take them to the next level, maybe then it happens. So, yeah, I mean, I think depending on some of the, you know, the unknown situations like Seattle, which could be in a full teardown if Russell Wilson's gone and Pete Carroll decides to step down or something like that. You know, the number might be somewhere between 4 and 6 this offseason.
Yeah, Eric, you mentioned Dallas. They're a very interesting team to me because I feel like they're very talented. But
yep.
I still look at them as they're the 5th best team in this conference because I don't know. I know they can't beat Tampa, even though that was week 1. Green Bay, I don't think they can beat. I think Arizona is going to be an interesting litmus test for them, but I don't know. I just feel like they can beat up on the NFC East, but they can't beat up on anybody else.
Yeah, and, you know, there's obviously been this chatter this week about is Dak struggling and all that. I'm not too worried about him. And, you know, the defense, what concerns me is obviously they've been so big play dependent. When they create turnovers, they tend to win games. When they get those big plays from Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs and people like that, they tend to have a lot more success. That scares me a little because, you know, there have only been a handful of defenses in the last 10 or 15 years, maybe the Bears when they were in their heyday at the end of the Lovie Smith era, you know, a couple more that have been very turnover reliant and been, you know, successful for, you know, any kind of notable length of time. But yeah, the loss of the Raiders certainly was concerning. You know, they weren't able to take advantage of, a Chiefs defense, which at the time wasn't playing all that well. Still, though, I think if they take care of business against the Giants, if they take care of business or they beat the Washington football team, a team they got a 24-0 lead on, they're probably in good shape for the postseason. But to your question about, the long-term viability, or not the long-term, but rather the how far can they make it in this field? Playoffs, yes. Very far, I'm really not sure, and I think it probably has a little bit more to do with the defense and the run game than it does with Dak and the rest of the offense.
Eric, need your take on something that's continuing to evolve and change on a day-in, day-out basis, and that's the COVID situation in the National Football League. Day before yesterday, they had the largest one-day positive test number that they've had since COVID came to our shores, which is saying something. Since players are vaccinated, yet they had their biggest positive test day. That's not good. Now, we know that you can actually get through the protocol within 3 or 4 days if you're vaccinated, if you're symptom-free, if you get 2 negative tests in over a 48-hour period, you can actually be quickly reinstated. There's a whole lot of question marks going into this weekend. The NFL is going to deal with this how? Are they going to upgrade their protocols, change their protocols, just cross their fingers and hope this is just a little spike that they're going through this week for other various reasons? It's kind of a scary situation. How is Roger Goodell et al. Going to deal with it over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 days?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the overwhelming number of players who are vaccinated, I mean, the number's north of 95%. I think 97 was the last that I saw reported. And, I've heard people suggest maybe there are more fake vax cards out there than we think. I highly tend to doubt that. I think the NFL has kind of learned its lesson from the Antonio Brown thing. And, it's probably made sure that, that these were verified vaccinations and everything. And we know all about the breakthrough cases and everything. If this is indeed the Omicron variant and we're seeing what the rest of the country is seeing, which is very few symptoms, people recovering more quickly, that's probably good news for the NFL. And for those vaccinated players, as you said, the protocol allows them to kind of get quickly back into the system, if they pass this sort of little battery of tests or whatever. So this is probably a good wake-up call for the NFL, being that it's week 15 and we have an extra week to play with in the regular season here, so that this kind of thing doesn't sort of come down during a playoff week and they can, adjust their protocols if needed. But I don't know there's going to be a massive change. I could be wrong about this. My colleague, Charles Robinson, just wrote about this yesterday. And yeah, it does sort of feel like the ship hit the iceberg here. But the fact that these all kind of came at once, while surprising, I don't think is going to be concerning in the long term. Maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic than other people are on this, but my sense is that the overwhelming majority of these players are going to be able to play, if not right away, then certainly the next week. And again, the timing ends up being pretty good in that it's still in the home stretch of the regular season. Even if it's not ideal, it's better than the alternative, I think.
Eric, I can't believe it's taken me an hour and a half to even mention this, but we get 2 Saturday football games this week. And
sure do.
Yeah, are you a fan of the Saturday football games? Because we're getting them over the next couple of weeks here.
I kind of like it. I obviously as college football has kind of waned off, I know we're getting into bowl season and everything like that, but it sort of fills out the schedule a little bit and gives us a little bit more football. Now the teams may not love it, logistically speaking, short weeks and travel and things like that. But it's really better than a Thursday game in terms of that kind of planning and things like that. And so, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm a fan, right? You get to watch more football on more days, a little more spread out. I think the gambling folks, now that the NFL has kind of embraced that, it gives them more opportunities to blow their money in different ways. So I think it's pretty cool. Other people may feel differently, but yeah, it kind of gets us a reminder that, hey, we're inching up on playoff season here, and we've got those 2 Saturday games, and it's a good way to remember we're in December here.
I'll say this, it helps our jobs too, because we can actually focus on one game.
Right. You're not watching 9 games at once and kind of overwhelmed and spraining your wrist, flipping back and forth, or watching the Red Zone channel or whatever people do. So yeah, I think it's good for that reason too.
I like the Saturday games too. Nitpicking, I liked 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock East Coast time. I know you got to put it on TV nighttime, but people go out on Saturday night.
Right.
I would believe they do better with a 1 o'clock Eastern game in that other window, opposed to the late afternoon game. than they would a night game. But we're going off course. Eric, the reason why we love having a guy like you on certainly in addition to the fact that you know what the hell you're talking about, we like to have non-Philadelphia guys comment on the Eagles because we're so inundated. We're around it every single day. Sometimes we get a little too narrow focus and light. So we like to have somebody on who's got a wider view of it. Give us your scouting eye on the Eagles and their playoff chances. And Jalen Hurts, who they hope is going to be healthy enough to play this 4-game stretch added to his entire body of work for the first 12 of the 13 weeks. What do you think about him as a potential quarterback for the Eagles going forward?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to laugh, guys, because this is the second time in 2 days I've been asked to kind of go into Philadelphia territory and comment on the Eagles. I did a mock draft. I do a lot of draft stuff, and with two guys who have Philadelphia ties, and they gave me all 3 Eagles first-round picks. I thought, this is some sort of weird initiation ritual, or so you guys are testing me, aren't you? Right. So this is a little bit of a similar vein here, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I obviously their schedule down the stretch isn't too bad, right? I mean, they've got the 2 games, one against New York and 2 against Washington, 4 division games. The Dallas game obviously is going to be pivotal. It's really been this sort of ping-pongy back and forth thing. I think after 1 and 3, people just thought, okay, this is just another one of those seasons. Week 1 was an aberration. And, they fight back tough in the second half against Carolina, couple setbacks, get back on track with a blowout out of the Lions. It's been hard to get a real beat on them, but I thought they played really competitive against a good Chargers team, obviously. Took care of business against I think it was the Saints and the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants' loss is going to end up stinging at some point, whether they get in and end up in that last wild card spot, or, if they don't get it at all and they're 1 game out, they're going to look back and say, boy, that was the missed opportunity. To your Hurts question, if I had to gather a 30,000-foot view of the situation, I would say that he's probably done enough to earn another provisional season, if you will, like another year where, and I realize they have 3 first-round picks, as we just mentioned a minute ago, but, even if there are things that you wish were better, that he would improve on, I would say that given the way he was thrown in last year, tough circumstances, acquitted himself fairly well. It hasn't been perfect this year, but we have this habitual process of quitting on young quarterbacks or not putting them in ideal situations around the NFL, not just the Eagles, obviously. And it really hurts their development. It hurts their confidence. It hurts their progress track. So I hope they at least sort of see it through a little bit. Could there be competition? Of course. I wouldn't be shocked if they end up using one of those first-round picks, move into 2023 draft, and which is, you would think, a stronger quarterback draft than this upcoming one. This isn't a terrible one, but it's not a great one either. And give them, I would say, another, at least part of a season to see if he is the man. So I like some of what he's done. He's sped up his process a little bit, still hangs onto the ball too much. The accuracy still could be scattershot, but overall, I think for where they got him and how he was thrown into the mix, I think he's done okay for himself.
Eric, and obviously you're more in touch with the draft than I am, but I have been paying attention to the quarterbacks, obviously, because of the Jalen Hurts situation.
Yeah.
And the only one that seems to wow me right now is Kenny Pickett. And I don't know if he's on that 2020 class with like Joe Burrow, Tua,
right,
Justin Herbert, but where would you stack Kenny Pickett amongst like the last couple draft classes?
Yeah, in fact, that's a question about a month or so ago I posed to an evaluator. I said, if we were to take all the 2022 quarterbacks, lump them in with last year's draft class, forget what we've seen out of, Zach Wilson or Trevor Wilson this year, merely as prospects, how would they stack up? I said, would any of the 5 or 6, let's say, of the top guys in this draft break into the above Mac Jones or above Justin Fields? And, the guy kind of thought about it a little bit and said, I don't know. I don't think so. And it would either be Pickett or Matt Corral, who would probably be the one who could slip into that spot. Pickett's had a really nice season. I think a lot of people have compared him to Joe Burrow in the sense that he probably entered the year as a 4th-round pick or something like that. Summer grades were coming in the early day 3 range, maybe late day 2. He'd had a lot of football in his career, hadn't played great against high-level competition. But this year has taken a different level, a different kind of leap that we hadn't really seen in his progression before. And it's exciting. I think that the hand size issue that's going to be annoying come Senior Bowl time and NFL Combine time. He's got historically small hands. He's got 8.25-inch hands. I think that's even smaller than mine, believe it or not. It's something that worries you because he does have, I think, 33 or 4 career fumbles. It hasn't really affected his throwing of the football. Now you're going to hear some Teddy Bridgewater stuff because he wears 2 gloves and all that. But I think he's got a little bit of Burrow in him. He's got a little bit of Kirk Cousins in him. That's probably the level of starter I think he'll get to. Now, Burrow, I think, can ascend higher. He's had some high-level games. So maybe where Burrow is now and where, Kirk Cousins, let's face it, has played some pretty good football in the NFL. I know he's an easy mark, but yeah, that's a solid quarterback. I don't know if you take that at number 6 overall or number 10, maybe 15. I don't know. I mean, the quarterbacks always get pushed up so high. I just feel like the inflation might be a little scary on this class. And you might be better served waiting for a Carson Strong or somebody who falls a little bit in this class.
All right, let's go glass more than half full with Eagles. Jalen Hurts plays well, and the scouting evaluation you just gave us, pretty good. It might not be the worst thing in the world. Give him another shot again next year. Let's say that's the way that it plays out and the way the Eagles evaluate it after this season is come and gone. They're going to have 3 first-round draft picks. As of right now, they're playing better, so theirs is getting a little further down the board. Dolphins have won 5 in a row. The Dolphin pick's getting further down the board. The Colts are in the playoffs right now. That could be in the 20s as a pick goes. It's more quantity, not quality. The picks are getting later, but 3 is 3, which means they're going to have their choice of a bunch of different players to upgrade this roster. Give us your read right now, and again, a lot of time between now and the draft, of positions of strength. If they don't have to go QB and they can be more open-minded about using those 3 picks, what positions have good numbers throughout the first round that you go, yeah, they'll upgrade there, they can upgrade there, they can upgrade there? What positions are strong in this year's draft?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think the answer is depending on, we're still waiting to hear on some underclassmen and things like that. And there could always be, workout injuries and whatnot. I mean, there's always factors that change the landscape a little bit, but I believe the strengths right now of what I see in the 2022 draft tend to match up pretty darn well with what the Eagles' biggest or most concerning needs are. And again, depending on, who gets let go. All right. I mean, are Barnett and Graham for sure gone? Okay. Then they probably need an edge. And this is a pretty good class, especially at the top. There's some guys that, I think we could see 3, maybe 4 in the top 10 or 12 picks. So that's, right in the wheelhouse of their first selection. I know linebacker is not traditionally a spot they address high in the draft. Maybe they've changed their philosophy on this. That's another position that I think is pretty solid for this year. A couple of guys I really like at the top and some more depth that's, decent. I would say they probably still need an offensive tackle. I would say a corner and a safety. Those are, if I had to just guess off the top of my head, maybe I'm forgetting something, but those are all positions that I look at and say they're either among the more top heavy or the deeper positions in this class. So, again, in a month, I'll have a better idea once all the underclassmen have declared and once we get a better picture of what this is going to look like. But, even if they only end up using 2 of the 3 first round picks, let's say, they should be able to get starters or significant contributors at 2 of those 5 spots, and I'm guessing with a heavy emphasis on defense.
Eric, I'm going to put you on the spot here with the playoff picture. Name the 3 wild card teams in the AFC and name the 6 and 7 seed in the NFC, because I'm assuming the Rams are making it.
Yeah, right. And is there more than one sub 500 team that makes it? I mean, at this point, we've got, I believe San Fran at 7-6 is in the 6th spot. And I think Washington right now has the edge, if I'm not mistaken. But there are 4 other 6 and 7 teams. So there's a good chance, especially with the odd number of games this year, that we have an 8 and 9 team make the postseason. It still seems strange to say that, by the way. I'm not used to it, but I would probably guess. Wow. I think the 49ers get in. I keep kind of hedging on that one. I'm not convinced. I mean, I'll put them in. All right. I don't want to hedge too much here, but I don't know that Philly can get in. They do have the edge over Atlanta, obviously another team at 6-7. I don't see New Orleans all of a sudden making a big push. Minnesota's been such a tough team to figure out all year long, right? They're super competitive, but they can't seem to win these close games, or they make their wins much tougher on themselves than they need to be. That concerns me, obviously. Could they make a push? That's probably the team. Philly, Washington, Minnesota are probably the three that are jockeying for that spot. I guess of the three, the most talented might be Minnesota, but are they going to win those games that they've seemingly had so much trouble with? Are they going to win the games that when it comes down to the final possession, or they need to protect a lead or come back, can they see it through? That's going to end up probably being the biggest difference.
Of those three teams, and each team has two sides of the ball, I would say Minnesota's offense is the best of those six units.
Yep.
That I have more faith that they're going to be able to put up points or whatever.
With a healthy Dalvin Cook, with a healthy Adam Thielen, I agree. Yep.
I agree. But I don't like their defense a little bit. That's why I think the Eagles can get that spot. All right. But away from that for a second, I need your take on what's happening in Jacksonville. We talk a lot about here on the show that continuity is a good thing. If you can find a coach and you can get through a rough time, keeping them around is only going to make you a stronger franchise going forward. And then there were just dumpster fires. And you got to put a dumpster fire out. You let it burn, it can rule your whole organization. That's the way I feel about Urban Meyer and what he's done down there in Jacksonville this year. Understand it'd be a big swallow for Shad Khan. Gave him a lot of money in a lot of years. But Shad Khan's got more money. He knows what to do with. So I won't start a GoFundMe page if he's got to pay off Urban Meyer to get him the hell out of there. What's going to happen? Is he going to get a second shot in Jacksonville?
I tend to think no. I think there's going to be some sort of agreement that's made, some sort of settlement or something like that. If I had to guess right now, if I felt like Urban Meyer was more engaged during games, and it's not like I'm sitting there watching him for 3 hours, glued to the head coach. What's he doing? What's he saying? How much is he moving or stalking on the sideline? Of course not. But when beat writers seem to know more about the roster than he does, that's a bit concerning. When it feels like he's not taking responsibility for personnel decisions. Why is James Robinson sitting? Why is this person not playing more? When there have already been these reports that have come out about sparring with assistant coaches. And Urban, to his credit, is right. He's always been tough on assistants. I mean, ask Mike Vrabel when he was at Ohio State. Ask Luke Fickell. Ask, even Charlie Strong, look, who was with him before and who's with him now. I mean, Charlie knows what he's signing up for. So I'm guessing he's probably not the leak. You would assume it came from somebody who was with him for the first time and getting the Urban experience and saying, what is going on here? Why am I getting pilloried for this thing? So, casting blame elsewhere, not sort of having much of a say over or not taking responsibility for what's going on the field in some cases, that's worrisome. That's the kind of buck passing that NFL owners look at and say, boy, that's anti-leadership. That's the opposite of what we want. Now, Shad has kind of couched his comments a little, it feels like. Is he doing that for financial reasons, or does he really believe he has a winner here who's, cooking up this genius plan in the bowels of the Jacksonville facility and is ready to unleash it on the league when they face New England in week 17, whatever. I mean, what are we waiting for here? We haven't seen anything outside of the Buffalo game that makes you think this can be a competitive football team. So at the end of the day, the development of Trevor Lawrence is more important than saving face over a bad decision. That's where I feel like a move probably ends up happening after the season. I don't know if he's fired for cause, or I don't know if he's, just given his full contract, but it just doesn't feel real tenable right now.
Yeah, you kind of brought up my next question about the Trevor Lawrence thing. I agree with you 100%, but I got to add this here. How do you not know Andre Sisco didn't play on Sunday? Oh,
he saw him chasing down a punt or something, or, right. I thought that was a little bit worrisome. And again, it's one thing if you had asked him directly, immediately after a game, when a coach has 58 different things running through his head. I believe it was the next day, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
I think
it was Monday.
Right, Monday. So after you would assume, watched the tape, made his notes, talked to his defensive coordinator, talked to his secondary coach, talked to the offensive assistants and said, all right, what do we see on this guy? Otherwise, how are we, it was like the answer that I used to give in college. Well, why didn't you do your homework? Well, I meant to do it, but it was an excuse making kind of, well, I think he's playing a little bit more, well, if you don't know, that's really where this isn't a college roster with 85 guys. This is an NFL roster with 53 and 46 active on game day. You should know who's going in and out. Do you think Bill Belichick and Andy Reid know who's going in and out? Yes, we do. So that's those kind of things aren't just a cute little story that everybody laughs at and says, ha ha. That's concerning. What's the line from Office Space? What would you say that you do around here? Right. So that's kind of what I was left with.
All right, last thing for me, Eric. You mentioned one of our guys, Andy Reid, who is a favorite and/or a heel here to some Philadelphia Eagle fans. It's funny how that stuff works out.
Yeah.
Much improved Chiefs. All of a sudden, the defense with another Philly guy, Spagnuolo, doing a really good job. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why. Was it just the fact that they reached out and picked up Ingram off the scrap heap and allowed them to move Chris Jones back inside? Did Spagnuolo make a change or do something different? The Chiefs went from a bottom 10 defense in the NFL to a top 5 defense in the NFL. You just don't see that in the midst of a season happen. How have the Chiefs been able to do that?
I think you hit on an important point. I call it stealing Melvin Ingram from Pittsburgh for a 6th-round pick. And I get it. Ingram's, been kind of a hot and cold player. He's had some injuries, different reasons. The way he was playing in Pittsburgh, I think everybody kind of felt like, boy, he's not even going to contribute there. But the fact that he was able to come in, as you pointed out, Chris Jones playing out of position at end, and he can do it, but that's not where he's best. He goes back inside. And also Frank Clark, early in the year, he had the lawsuits hanging over his head. He wasn't playing well. He looked kind of, like a chicken with his head cut off out there. He was outstanding on Sunday. 4 quarterback hits. He had a half a sack. He was, really leading to the pressure that I thought got in Derek Carr's head early in that game. And I watched almost every play of that game live on Sunday. And, I there was one play when they gave up the touchdown in the second half and you see Willie Gay Jr. throw up his hands. I mean, they were up 30 points at that point. I think it's just they've taken some pride in this defense too. Like they don't even like giving up first downs at this stage. So real credit. I mean, I don't think they've allowed more than 20 points outside the Tennessee game in about 2 months now. The first 5 games of the year, it was 30 points or more every single game. It's an unbelievable turnaround. And when you have the best special teams or one of the best special teams units and Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and all those guys, that's a pretty tough combination. It really is. They're going to be just as tough and out as they have been the last 3 years or so. And I can't wait to see this game tomorrow, right? Against the Chargers. Yeah.
Right. Thursday night action should be a fun one. All right. So Erica, you're going to go out and get 9 in, 18. If it's in the 50s there in Chicago, you're going to get the clubs out today.
This is so embarrassing. I sold my clubs. I got so upset at golf. I had a really bad golf year in about 2017 or 18. I can't remember now, but I just said, I'm done. I'm done with this sport. We had a yard sale and I think I sold them for like $35, So there's 2 golf courses about half a mile away from me. And I always, we moved here a few years ago and I keep thinking one day I'm going to get back over there. So, well, it's been almost 5 years now. I gotta start thinking about a new set of sticks.
I am sorry if I rubbed salt in the wound there. I had no idea.
It's golf weather, though. I get why you asked.
But just glad to hear you having a nice day in Chicago. We appreciate it. Thanks for getting up early with us today here on Birds 365. We'll get you back on during the playoffs.
All right. Thanks. Very good. I appreciate it, guys.
Our pleasure. Does a great job for Yahoo Sports. Eric Edholm here with us on Birds 365. All right. Look at the clock. We still got 5 solid minutes left. Don't go anywhere. Jeff Kerr, Jody McDonald coming back to build a bow on the show on Birds 365.